Oh my God. Hello, everyone. Hello, Aaron.
Greetings.
Greetings. I'm Joe-y Busuttil.
I'm Aaron Flett.
And welcome to the back room. And can you believe, and we always say this, episode 7. Wow, it's going quick. We're going to be like double digits soon. That's exciting, isn't it?
You're going to be what, sorry?
Double digits. We'll be, we'll have to have a special 10th show or something.
Oh, I'm just sorry. I got thrown off by the start. I'm just fixing myself. Oh, wait. Okay, I'm good.
There you are. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks you in the room.
And welcome to episode 7 of The Back Room. On today's show, we're going to be speaking to Grant. Grant's back, and he's going to be doing Secret Men's Business Spirituality, and he's going to be looking at BDSM and TANTRA. And we're also going to be speaking to Sandy, who's going to help us to look at addictions and how you can get a sponsor or a therapist. What else do we have on the show today?
We've got our gorgeous bear.
Oh, my God. Yes, the bear's on holidays, and he so beautifully, he said, I'm on holidays, so I'm not going to present. And I said, no, you're going to present. You're going to take your phone and you're going to take footage. And he did, and it's such a beautiful place. But can I just tell you, I think Bear should be on normal television. Yeah, he's got that natural vibe about him, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, no, he's just really calm and relaxed, and obviously with his previous work with customer service, he has that, that edge to, he's able to talk.
Yeah. But it just seems, I really enjoy watching as well. You can't, when someone's got that, what's the X factor? He's got the X. And we're also going to be speaking to Lawrence, who's going to be doing the Pride Project and talking about the controversy around how one of the Bachelor stars came out as gay, and now they want to introduce gay screening in all reality shows. So the person who says that they're straight isn't really lying, and that's his topic today. And the last person we're going to speak to, who's that last person?
Steve.
Steve,
okay. So
Steve's going to be talking about.
Steve's talking about men's sexual health advocacy, obviously part of the Secret Men's Business Group. Bisexual health within the bi community. Yes. I've had a really good chat with I was actually on a boat cruise with Steve. I actually got to meet Steve, and we didn't actually have met. And because I knew he was on the boat cruise, and I said, "Hey, I'm Aaron." He goes, "Oh my God, hey, how are you?" So we had a really good chat and about the bi community, and I didn't realize the stigma. There is a bit of a stigma, I guess.
Yeah,
with the real bi men, like it's a real thing, and of course it is. And just hearing his story, it really hit home.
I think that there's, that's a good point. I think there's stigma around a lot of stuff that we think. That's the thing. We think we're moving forward, but in reality, we're still getting stuck and saturated in this behaviour that is not really purposeful. I wanted to raise the fact that we had a BDSM leather sort of connection topic this week or last week, and it's interesting. I got a lot of emails from people, a lot of messages from people saying thank you. No one's really spoken about this before. This is really liberating. And then I got a lot of messages from people saying this is really inappropriate. You shouldn't be doing this. And it just raises the issue that people may be missing what the Secret Men's Business is all about. The Secret Men's Business is all about that secret stuff that we don't talk about. Men, meaning everything, business. So there's going to be certain topics that people may not understand. Now, the person that was, or people that were messaging me was saying things like, oh, you should be talking about depression and anxiety and all that. But the reality is that we talk about that all the time. And if you go to the SMB channel or you go to our learning center, we've got all the information there. But I guess people aren't looking at that. They just want to make a judgment. So in regards to self-acceptance, the only way you really accept yourself is if you're able to work on yourself, because then you're not able then to look at other people and judge them because you don't care about what other people do. So, when you look at someone else and you say, oh, I don't like that, I think that's inappropriate, I think that's wrong, it really means that something inside of you is being triggered that you need to work on. So if you were triggered by the BDSM stuff, you need to go look at yourself. You need to look at what's going on in you that makes you uncomfortable to allow other men to enjoy or even to talk about that topic. What do you think? Why do you think men have to, why do they have to put their 2 cents worth in? Why can't they just accept what other people do?
because of the fear of the unknown. It's like, oh my God, what does that mean? Does that mean if I think about it or try it, I might like it? What will people think? What will people say?
Yeah.
Oh no, we
Do
can't
you
have
think
that.
it's even like, I think you're right, but I also think it's about them thinking, right, that's wrong, so that means you're wrong.
Yeah, of course
Right?
it does.
And I was watching something on YouTube last night. Actually, 'cause I come across my favorite porn star, who's a straight porn star, and he's got this channel, and I just watched it because he was talking about everyday stuff. It wasn't about porn, and one of the segments was, "What is the myths and stigma around porn?" And straight away that came up. It's like everyone assumes that you're a drug addict. Everyone assumes that you're being, brutally traumatized as a child. Everyone assumes all these things. And he goes, I'm a multimillionaire and I don't care what people think. I'm healthy. And it sort of makes you think, why do we have to continually knock down people because we ourselves don't understand? Like, I enjoyed doing that segment researching because there were things that I didn't understand. Like, I now realize that I'm really fascinated. I want to become a puppy. Like, I want to get one of those masks to just do a puppy thing because I saw this video of this, like, dog. It's like a dog pen of humans dressed up as dogs, and the owners are on the edge, and all the puppies are playing with each other, and it looked like fun. So I know that there's something obviously triggered in me that wants to go and explore that. And I'm not scared of that.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with it either. It's like, okay.
So what do you say to people?
Sorry.
What do you say to people when you hear them or feel that they're judging other people? How do we get people to understand that we understand what they're saying, but if we judge everyone, then really we want everyone to be like ourselves then. That's going to be boring.
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 Very boring.
So what would you say to someone?
Someone that would be, if we were talking about a discussion of BDSM or being puppy play or something like that.
Let's just say someone's going to be judging your hairstyle today.
Are they wearing it?
That little beautiful thing that you've got. So if someone says, no,
longer.
Keep it there. But you know what I mean? What if someone judges your hair, hypothetically? Let's just use something easy. And they're telling you that your hair should be blonde, right? But you want to have your color hair. Really, how would you tell them in a nice way to piss off?
Well, I don't like your hair color either. I think your hair should be yellow. I would think your hair would be preferred to be yellow. So,
but that sort of is you're sort of playing their game that way by tit for tat. I think that you could do something more assertive and say, "Thank you for your opinion, but I know who I am and I'm happy with the way my hair looks." You don't need to retaliate. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not even retaliating. It's like, well, then I don't understand. I hear what you're saying in this retaliation, I guess, but at the end of the day, you want to frame it in a way that they may understand it as well. And of course, I would have said that too. It's just like, well, that's great, but I'm happy with my hair. And this is my hair, my body. I'll do with whatever I like with it.
Exactly.
Thank you for your opinion.
That's great. And it made me realize, doing all the research, is that some of those guys must get so much flack. Like, I was, imagine the puppy guys, right? There's some guys that go onto the street, right? And they're being on a chain, and in Berlin, because Berlin and Europe is so more progressive. And, the thing is that those guys have no inhibition, so they don't care. But then people on the side watch them and they judge them. It's just interesting how, people think that they've got a right to say that that's right or wrong. I just find that interesting. It's right. It's wrong for them to be a dog, because if they're doing that, that means they're broken and there's something wrong with them. No, they're just exploring role play. That's all it is, but they see it as wrong.
But people don't want to, people just automatically, no, that's wrong, next.
Yeah.
They don't want to know about it. I mean, that's their opinion. That's it.
How do we tell our listeners how we can expand on that? Like, what do we need to first do, you think, just to start accepting ourselves? Because, if you're judging someone, I believe that you're, in a way, looking at yourself, right? There's a judgment about you in regards to what's going on. So it's interesting how, again, sex is a big topic. And the thing from a psychological perspective is that Maslow has a hierarchy of needs. There's a triangle. At the very bottom of that triangle, right, it says the basic needs of every man and woman and human is food, water, shelter, and sex. Right? Those four things are basic. So if we can't even talk about sex because we're uncomfortable, we've got no hope to move up the ladder. Because, we can't even talk about that. No wonder there's body shaming and there's uncomfortable stuff and sexual dysfunctions and suicide and all that, because if we can't even talk about the most basic thing, and that is someone just enjoying their own pleasures with someone else in their own consent without hurting anyone, that to me fascinates me.
I think also, and I totally agree with you as well, but also culturally and in Europe, sex is not a big deal. Where it's a big taboo over here. It's just like, we can't do that. And you're talking about Berlin. Berlin is an incredibly open place where you can do not pretty much everybody. Well,
no, the thing about Berlin is that no one cares what you do.
No, and there's no judgment there. You can do and be whatever you want. You can be a puppy on the side of the road, and that's like, okay, that's cool. And in
Australia, for some reason, it's not only about sex; it's about anything. If you can't brag about anything, because as soon as you brag, people don't like that. Well, when you look at America or other countries, they elevate their celebrities, their stars, people that do well, but we don't do that here. So I think all of that ties in to all of this stuff. Is that, you know what? I don't want to be comfortable with you doing what you're going to do sexually. I want to be comfortable with what I'm doing. So that just sort of tells me that we do live in a bit of a conservative world or country, don't we? Mm-hmm. Are you conservative?
Definitely. No, I'm pretty open.
I know you are.
I'm pretty open. Like I don't have hang-ups. I mean, I don't have. Each their own. At the end of the day, it's whatever works for you.
Oh no! Here we go.
No. That's not what you think. No. And also, it's not what you think. I mean, I used to be a stripper. God, 15, 20 years ago, and I used to dress up for things. And I did something very similar to that.
So coming up next is Aaron stripping.
Hey guys, this is Grant from Secret Men's Spiritual Business, and today's segment he's talking all things BDSM and TANTRA, and our virgin sponsor for today for this specific segment is Tom Jones Massage.
Hi. I'm Grant Shepherd from Conscious Pathways and Secret Men's Enlightenment, and you're watching The Back Room. So today I thought it would be cool to riff a little bit about Tantra and BDSM, considering that has been a focus. And at first glance we might sort of think, okay, well, Tantra and BDSM, how does that work? What are the similarities? So there are a number of very important similarities. The first one is consent. So consent is a very important part of the whole process of both Tantra and BDSM. Both parties, or even more parties, usually it's just two if it's traditional BDSM or Tantra because of the energetics involved. But everybody involved needs to have consent. They need to actually bring their consent to the table and say, okay, here are my boundaries. This is what I will and won't do. I'm open to exploring the boundaries. However, if we do so, we need to do so with my express consent. Consent is extremely important because if we have a look at what consent actually is, it's respect. It's respecting the person that you're practicing with, and it's also respecting yourself. These are my boundaries, these are your boundaries, this is my consent, this is your consent. Another very important part, and I just touched on it, is respect. So in Tantra, when you start a practice session, you actually acknowledge the person that you're working with. And you basically say, okay, I am going to respect you and welcome you as a form of the divine, as a form of absolute consciousness, as a form of myself. With BDSM, it's very similar. It's sovereign beings meeting. I'm here, you're here. We're stepping into the present moment. and living in that place for the period of time that we have our session. Another very important part about both Tantra and BDSM, awareness, consciousness. Must be completely aware of what's going on. Why? Because we've talked about consent, boundaries, being present. So we need to be aware of all these things when we do our practice. Is the person that we're working with, are they getting uncomfortable? How am I feeling? Checking in with oneself all the time. Am I aware? Am I in the present moment? What's happening for me right now? How do I feel in my body? How is this person reacting to what I'm doing? How am I feeling right now? So awareness is an extremely important part as well of the whole process. Another important part, of course, and this often comes up in Tantra, pleasure. Pleasure. In the Western world, it's very funny. We are so told all the time, okay, have as much sex as you can, or be as sexy and desirable as you can. But if you have that sex, well, you're somehow bad. Sex is bad, sex is wrong. Not like that in Tantra at all. That's why I've been teaching it for so many years and I love it. Tantra is body positive, it's sex positive, it's enjoyment positive, it's pleasure positive. And BDSM can be very much the same. But BDSM is very interesting as well, and there is this parallel in Tantra as well. BDSM acknowledges that also, as well as pleasure in sex, there is also pain. Pain. Pushing boundaries. So Tantra talks about this too. It says, with sex, pleasure and pain are the opposite faces of the same coin. You can't necessarily have one without the other. And I totally agree with that. So let me give you an example. You might be experiencing some sort of pleasure during your tantric or your BDSM work, and then all of a sudden there's a little bit of fear that arises. There's the pain, right there. Now, how are you going to work with it? Are you going to be aware of it? Are you going to work through it? Are you going to be brave enough to go, okay, this is where I want to work into. I'm going to push the boundaries as well as being aware of consent. You see, it's a very interesting dance. So I hope that's given you a little bit of insight into the similarities between Tantra and BDSM. At first glance, they look quite different, but when we look deeper and we see consent, boundaries, respect, discipline, awareness, when we see these elements, we actually can see that Tantra and BDSM actually have a lot in common.
BDSM and Tantra. Yes, I'm looking at you.
It's the phantom of the back room.
Don't you think BDSM, right? A lot of people have a lot of weird stuff to say about BDSM. Oh, it's this, it's dirty. But when I was doing the research, I realized that BDSM is all about consent. That's really cool, isn't it? Because it's safe words and you can tap out. And so it's such an environment of caring and nurture that you don't really feel threatened as much as, say, women do when they go out, or when you're in a situation when you're maybe drunk too much and you might feel that you've taken for granted. What do you think?
I think it's an awesome place to go when somebody that's obviously trained in that specific profession, that you can feel vulnerable and have those boundaries put in place that you can do and be whatever you want. And I think it's a really good place to be. I think it's a very great place, good English. It's an awesome place to experiment and know where your boundaries are, and obviously safe words and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's interesting that you said that about the trained person. Like, what happens if you don't know anyone? Like, I've only had minimal exposure to it. I'm interested. So I went looking online, and it was one thing that I was really sort of surprised by, that if you type in that sort of topic, the main thing that comes up is females. I didn't, that shocked me a little bit. There was heaps. I'm talking about page after page of dominatrixes.
Mhm.
And it was really hard to navigate where to go to sort of learn and connect with what I want. And so now I sort of do know, because I, met certain people and spoke to them and interviewed them on the podcast. But it's not as easy as we may think to navigate. It's sort of like you need to know someone. And also, how do you navigate not knowing anything and then going into a place where people know stuff? That's a little bit of a head game they're going on there. Like,
it's an element of trust. It's an element of trust. There's a trust thing right there and then, isn't it? It's like, I want to try this, but then it's just like, where do I go? Who do I see? It's that.
I know that did you know there were classes on this topic? You can actually go, there's an online class.
I have heard of classes. I haven't looked personally myself, but I have heard of it, yes.
So can I ask you a personal question? Like, can you share anything at all that's, G-rated of anything that you've experienced? Because I think it's interesting to talk about.
Of course, we can talk about it.
What have you experienced in the BDSM stuff? And also, have you experienced Tantra? Have you done Tantra as well? And how can you see them two being married together?
Look, I think they can be married together. I think there's Tantra and BDSM is obviously separate. You can do those separately. I got tied up once, and I think this is when I was with girls. I got tied up once, and I didn't like it because I felt that I wasn't in control, because this was 20 years ago. I haven't been tied up since, I guess, because I haven't.
I'll forget you, but the way you're saying it with that mask on, it's really funny. I know. So does that mean that you're more of a dom and you don't really like because I'm listening to you and I'm getting hot because I love all that stuff. I love letting go of control and being, my experience was I met a guy once at the Prince of Wales, and I went home with him thinking I'm going to have this really raunchy sex because he was hot, and he literally just came into the room with the peg basket and he said, "I'm going to cover you in pegs," and so I had to stand there. He covered me in pegs, and that was the end of this. That was it. Once the pegs came off, it was over.
So he said, "I've got you pegged."
Well, yes, he told me I've got me pegged, but I resisted at first, going, "Oh, this is boring," but then something happens. I really quite liked the whole control thing, and he's telling me not to move, and I had to deal with the pain, and then I had to learn to breathe it out, and then the pegs come off, and that's when it really hurts, and so it was quite a good experience at the end, and it lasted 2 hours. So it wasn't just, so it made me realize that sex doesn't have to be what we think it is. It's not just about, it doesn't have to be about penetration. It could just be about roles, and it could be about feelings and all that. So that's why I think I'm sort of wanting more of that. But you're right. It's like, I wish there was a school for beginners. So you don't have to be around other people. Every time I've gone to Folsom or something, I feel this vibe, but it's safer because it's in this big open air thing. But walking into a room that might be a dungeon and you don't know anything may be a little bit scary. I don't know.
Do you feel like you're being thrown to the wolves and not sort of kind of,
I think it's my own personal insecurity. That's all. You said something before that was true, is that you just got to trust, people aren't going to hurt you.
I'm being pegged up to a bed and then, totally, I can't move. And then they'll go, okay, well, I'm going now. I'll be here tomorrow afternoon at 3:00. You're like a turtle once you're on your back. So, and that's a big trust thing. And why
did you let them do that? Did you didn't know it? You didn't know at that point that you didn't like it or not?
She just, because I never tried it. There was never an opportunity for me to do it or give it a go.
Sure.
So I just thought,
I'll try it.
You know what? I'm up for giving it a go. So I did. And then it was just like, okay, I'm really, really screwed right now and I can't move.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's the thing. So you made it real. So the whole idea for me, if I was in your shoes, I would just surrender. And I love that whole not knowing. I remember, oh God, anyway, don't worry. No, I was going to say, I remember when I went to America once, and I met this guy in LA, and, I ended up in a cage. He put me in a cage. You know what I mean? So when you surrender, You have to trust. If the trust is there, you don't worry about what's going to happen because you know it's not there. You know, there's safe words and all these things. And that's the thing I think that normal sex doesn't have. You know, really, if you think about it, BDSM has so many boundaries and it's so good because that means that you're always going to be safe. Unless you're with someone that is not going to listen to the safe words. I want to tie you up now. Okay, coming up next is Sandy Curtayne from the Men's Addiction Advocacy. She's going to be talking about how you can find a therapist or a sponsor to help you to get through your addiction. And today's sponsor for this segment is InSynergy Property Investment.
Hello and welcome to the back room. Sandy back again. Just talking, it's sort of always a little bit hard to be light-hearted when you're talking about addictions and all the things that go on with it. But while keeping my sensible face on, we'll talk about some of those areas. And I thought today we might have a bit of a chat. And, you know, I mean, presuming that you're looking at perhaps moving away from addiction and some of the things that you can do. So one of the things that if you've made some of those choices, you need to know areas that you can go to for help. There's actually noticed the other day, and I haven't researched it, so if anyone's got any feedback, I'd love to hear about it, about day hab. So it's obviously something that you can go to regularly for, you know, being in recovery, I suppose, or getting into getting out of addiction. So some of the things that I would like to talk about today is choosing a therapist. Interestingly enough, it's really, really individual, and people have very, very individualistic ideas of what a therapist is. So, you know, you've got everything from perhaps pranic healers up to psychologists, everything in between. Whatever works for you, and whatever your beliefs are definitely your beliefs. I suppose the things that I would say to you is choose your person. Find someone that has got enough gumption to perhaps challenge your ideas and conception of ideas within moving away from addiction. Because one of the things that I see regularly is with my clients, my addict clients, they will vocalise quite regularly about their past glories, I suppose. And it's really interesting as a therapist when you see people living those past glories, because it means that they're still thinking that's where I want to be. That's addiction. And what you think about in those past glories are, guess what? You're drug affected. That's not you. That's drugs. All right. It might be part of you that's enhanced. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to do all of that without any drugs? In fact, potentially, because we have filters and all the rest, you wouldn't do that anyway. So when you think about choosing a therapist, find your person. Find someone that is going to challenge you, that isn't just going to be the yes man, someone that you can relate to, someone that you can talk to, also someone that listens. So even in the challenges, it's not about making you wrong or making your choices wrong, but how the solutions are to get out of those areas and choose better and wiser. So what I'm saying is go to the area that works for you. Try 1,000 therapists. It doesn't matter if it's not the person for you. Move on. Don't get stuck. If you're really looking for help, as I say, I really don't care at what level it is, at who it is that you use. Find the person that you can work with. It's really, really, really important. And if that's not your person, another therapist. It's easy, guys. Just be truthful to yourself. Perhaps don't, when you think about moving on, also know that if they're challenging because stuff is happening, maybe that's also where you need to stay. So you just sort of got to go, it's sort of not that quick fix, it's that filtering of working out whether that's working for you. All right, so a little bit about a therapist, and like honest truth, anytime any of you want to know any thoughts or something along those lines, drop Joey or Aaron a line. I know that they would happily pass it on to me, or quite often I'm sure that Joey would be able to probably cover off some of those areas as well. Also, what is the difference between a therapist and a sponsor? All right, so let's say that you've moved into the area where you're actively coming out of addiction. A sponsor is someone that you can ring 24/7 that keeps you in the headspace of what you're doing and talks you through those difficult times. A therapist actually actively works with you on therapy of how to stay out of addiction. So your therapist is not your sponsor. I very much would love to sponsor a lot of my clients, but I just don't have the time. When they need me, they need to be able to ring me. And I might be in session back to back and not be available for 8 or 9 hours. And that's not ideal for someone that is really needing to ring. And it can just be the 5-second call. The sponsor is one that sort of makes you accountable and is there for you. So if you're feeling like you're going to slip, you ring them. You might have agreements also with that where you go, just ring in on me, X amount of times a day. It's someone that you can rely on a day-to-day basis. As I say, it doesn't mean you don't rely on your therapist, but definitely being a sponsor is a different zone. So just be aware of that. I would also say, even with a therapist, it would be nice that every once in a while you think that you could contact them if you need to, if you can't get hold of your sponsor or whatever. But look, that's just some of the things, hopefully you're thinking about moving into those areas of moving out of addiction, things to look for, things that have integrity in your life that means something for you. Go for it, guys. Like really, it is becoming so cool, and I mean it seriously, so cool to actually now be clean, like to be standing around in peer groups, saying, I used to be an addict, and they go, oh my God, how did you get out of that? And then you'll get it where it's a totally different zone where, you don't sit around and go, oh, I remember when we were doing this, living past glories. We might talk about that next time, about some of those triggers, because they're everywhere. They're everywhere. If you think about it this way, you're just going to do your life without drugs. It's a good thing. All right, until next time, be kind to yourselves, be integral to yourselves, from the back room, and straight back to Joey and Aaron, and have a wonderful time until next time we talk. All right, cheers.
Coming up next is Lawrence Akers and the Pride Project. And on this segment, he's going to be talking about how reality TV shows, in America especially, are now screening men and making sure that they're not gay, which is causing controversy in the LGBTQI community. So take a look. And this segment is sponsored by Get Outside Melbourne.
Hi everyone, I'm Lawrence. Welcome to the Pride Project. Now, I'm not a big fan of US television. In fact, I'm not a big fan of television in general, to be honest. However, I did notice in the news recently that one of the Pride bachelors from the US show The Bachelor had decided to come out. And kudos to him. Congratulations. What was interesting was the response that his coming out had Obviously, there were many people who were in support of him discovering his authentic sexuality, but then there were also some other ridiculous comments on the other side. In fact, there was one comment that I saw was someone saying, does that mean that the TV network will need to start screening the bachelors to make sure they're not gay? Now, of course, I've given a pregnant pause there just to let the stupidity of that comment sink in. I'm not even sure how they would do that. You know, do they lock him in a room and play a full Kylie album and see if there's a response by the time they get to the end of the album? I don't know. I really don't know. But it did strike me as a bizarrely unusual comment to make and highlight perhaps still the lack of understanding that often exists around what it's like to grow up in part of the LGBTQIA+ community. Now, I know for me personally, I didn't come out till I was in my late teens, getting towards the end of my high school life. I did know that prior to coming out, I had no concept I was gay. I really didn't. And sexuality wasn't high on my agenda, wordplay intended. You know, for me, it was a case of I just didn't feel any connection kind of there. I could see a lot of my friends were beginning to get girlfriends and everything, and I just didn't have any drive there. And it didn't rate as a red flag overly. I just thought that was who I was. I could sense that I was different, but I just couldn't put my finger on in what way. It wasn't until towards the end of my high school life that that world began to open up to me, and I began to discover who I sexually, authentically was. And, you know, when you think about it, I know several of my friends who came out later in life. You know, some of them were married beforehand, and some of them had children. And, you know, there were wonderful experiences that they wouldn't have traded in, but they reached the point where they recognized that they actually were gay and that they wanted to live that part of their life authentically. And, you know, there's that debate between nature and nurture too. I know, to be honest, I don't know anyone out there who says that they weren't born gay. If you think that, I'd be curious to chat with you, because I'd love to hear, you know, your thinking around that. It's not aggressive. I'm genuinely interested. However, you know, I think everyone tends to feel that they were born gay. But in terms of nature and nurture, I think it does play a part, because I think the way they've been nurtured might indicate at what point they came out or didn't come out as well. You know, I think there's a lot of assumptions made from people who may not understand what it's like to grow up being gay about that part of our life and about coming out. You know, apart from the fact that is there a test that's going to test if you actually are gay or not? You know, it's about just accepting people for who they are and allowing them to be when the time is right. Now, as I get towards the end of this, I realize there's no real punchline coming up here in terms of where this is going. It's more of an observation based on a current news thing. But I'm curious to hear perhaps what your experience has been like as well. You know, certainly feel free to jot them in the comments around this episode. It'd be great to find out what your experience has been, and if perhaps you agree with my comments or if you disagree. In the meantime, though, thank you for watching, and it's back to Joey and Alex.
You watch The Bachelor?
No, if it's on and it's on TV, I don't normally watch TV, but if it's on in front of me, it'll just like look at it and go,
Do you think? I think that if someone went on The Bachelor and they were straight, and then they came out, I don't think that's a controversial thing. It's reality. Like, you know, I think now to put screening tests on everyone to make sure that they're not. I mean, how would you know what you are if someone screens no to being gay and then they're gay later? You know, I think it's really wrong to do that. It's sort of like that. You might as well turn around and
if you're not, if you're gay and you're gay, you know that. You should know that already. I mean, we know that.
I know, but so you're saying that he did the wrong thing by going on the show?
He knew what he was doing before he got. See, this is really quite.
See, I went on Perfect Match.
Okay,
I'll tell you why. Okay, I'll tell you. So I remember going to the Peel and I saw this friend of mine. He goes, "Oh my God, I just want a trip to Canada." Right. And all of us that were listening going, "How?" And he goes, "I just went on Perfect Match." So then several of us went on we were all enrolled and I got in and I got a holiday as well. We went there for the holiday.
Okay, see, so obviously you know that you just don't turn gay like that. Oh, look, I'm straight. I'm going to go on this bachelor thing.
No, but I
I
was like that. But that guy, when you read his article, right, when you read his story, he didn't know. He obviously had an awareness, but he really didn't think that was true. So he didn't tie into it. But then as time went on, like we're talking about 5 years since he was on The Bachelor, he then became comfortable and then decided to come out. And so everyone's going back to that 5 year mark, and that's not fair. You know, he said that when he was on the show, he had real intentions to be what he was saying he was going to be. You know, I don't know, but like when I went on Perfect Match, though, the funny thing is that I didn't get Canada. I got Port Macquarie, and you don't go on the holiday on your own. You go with another couple and a chaperone, right? So there was 5 of us, and I remember as soon as I got to the airport, I knew straight away the other guy was gay, so I hooked up with him. So it was a perfect match, but there was a clause in the contract that you had to sign to say that you weren't gay. And you know the reason why that happened is because one of the 7 guys that was there and then enrolled, he then got on the show later, and he went to Adelaide and he got caught. He got caught with another guy, and so he got banned, and he got told to go back to Melbourne. And that's when they brought the stricter rules in, because they realised then that there was a lot of men that were not really there for the right intention.
Just like maths and things, and then they were just going there for
It's not real. It's not real. Like Perfect Match, for example, you know, you think you're getting that question from the girl on the other side of the screen in that moment, but actually you get the questions hours before you even go to air. You have to get, you know, they have to approve your answer. So you write the answer, then that answer is on a whiteboard in front of you, just in case you freeze, and you have to read it. So the whole thing is manufactured.
Of course it is. We know that. I mean, look at maths, for crying out loud. And I know somebody that was on the first Bachelor, and it was just like, okay, guys, there's not enough drama happening here. Quick, create drama. So it's all this drama. There's so many
Variances of it. Did you see that
so
show?
many strings to this. It's ridiculous.
Did you see that show on Stan called? I think it's called Unreal, and
No,
it's like a TV show about the crew that work behind the scenes of The Bachelor, but it's called Everlasting. And the people say that show is 99% accurate. And when you watch that show, you realize that there's corruption, there's drugs, there's people sleeping with each other, there's all this stuff going on, and it's all I can see you on The Bachelor. They should do a gay bachelor. You could be the first gay bachelor. We have the bear.
He's talking about the Abbotsford subtropical gardens.
Hi and welcome to my section on SMB TV. My name's Ian Buckley Walker and I'm the Bear Gardener, so welcome back. Well, this week we're making the most of the restrictions being lifted here in the UK, and we're actually allowed to go on vacation. So we've taken a camper van and we've come down here to Devon, and we thought what better place to film my small section today than in these beautiful subtropical gardens here in Abbotsford, and under the shade of a wonderful eucalyptus tree as well. Well, I'm going to keep my section very short this week because actually I am on holiday, but we all know the great importance holidays can give to us with regards to our mental health. It's a bit of a time to step out of that hustle and bustle of the daily life and just kind of relax and take in. So this week I'm just going to show you some beautiful pictures of some really lovely plants that we find here at Abbotsford, and I'll be returning to you with more tips and advice on gardening next time. So I hope you enjoy this section. Something else I find really good for my mental health is a bit of retail therapy, and I just couldn't resist buying these. So we have 2 aeoniums here, a milianthus as well, which will grow really large, and of course my own little bit of Australia, a little silver eucalyptus just for my husband to remind him of home.
I'll be back.
And
What
it's
if there's more?
time to say goodbye again. How quick does the show go? We've had a great show. Shut up, don't look at me. It's been a good show again, and I know that some of the topics are things that people don't like, but if we don't talk about things we don't like, how do we learn? Like, that's why I love this show, because every time I walk away with knowing something new.
I'm glad that we can talk about it. I'm glad that we are talking about those things that people may be clutching their pearls about. This is why we're here, isn't it? That's what you're here to learn. Knowledge is power. So something that may be a little bit out of your comfort zone, well, maybe you might just learn from something like that and not needing to judge other people for it, because if it blows their skirt up, it doesn't necessarily have to blow yours up, and that's okay.
Can I get an amen? Get an amen. Amen! And so coming up in the next few weeks, if it's possible, we are going to get a segment from Aaron, aren't we, Aaron? I know Aaron is like, I think Aaron needs your support by writing in or, doing something to tell Aaron that you want a show from Aaron. So let's start that chant. Go on, Aaron. Go on, Aaron. Until next time, this is Joey Busuttil.
And this is Aaron Flett.
And we're on the back room, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
See ya.
Bye. Hey, I didn't see the ghost. Bye.